But I'm speaking with Owain Doull.
Yeah.
My Welsh is so good. And anyone who knows me knows that I have a soft spot for pursuiting. And Owain's, well, part of Team Sky, but he's also Olympic gold medalist.
I'm pretty fortunate in the sense that I can kind of ride the road and the track, which is nice because it keeps everything fresh, to be honest. You know, if I do want to go back for the track in Tokyo, for example, I can drop in a year and a half out because, you know, the track's pretty intense and the kind of the day in, day out of it's pretty hard. So kind of the thought of doing it for now for another 4-year cycle is pretty intense. And yeah, it's nice to be able to step away. If you do come back, then it's kind of you've got that added hunger really, because it feels new.
And what was the progression that got you through to Rio? How did you come to the team?
Gradually, I guess. You know, I never. In my first year, I didn't even make a World Cup team for team pursuiting. My second year, managed to make the World squad. We didn't do very well. Then third year, just kind of gradual progression, I guess. You know, you get some guys who kind of burst into it pretty quick. You know, I think Ed did the World's TP when he was 19, I think, or 18. You know, but I was kind of, I don't know, maybe a bit more of a slow burner. And yeah, I was kind of fortunate. I was, for the first kind of 3 years, I was kind of juggling track and road. And then for the last year into Rio, I kind of stepped fully away from the road, kind of fully committed to the track, and it paid off, I guess. So.
We've seen plenty of pursuiters come from the track and onto the road and go and win things like the Tour de France. So we know that it's possible. And in this transition period that you're going through now, there's big, how do we put it? Your body will change, won't it? Like I've spoken with Bradley and Geraint about their transitions from pursuiters to the road.
Yeah.
And Geraint in particular, he's slimmed down enormously. You still look like you've got a little bit of the rugby figure.
Yeah. I think so. When my best result ever on the road was Tour Britain 2015. I came like third overall, and that's kind of what got my contract with Sky. And that was when I was kind of focusing between the track and the road. And I was 72 kilos then. And then in Rio I was 78, so it's quite a big jump.
Is that gym work? What puts that weight on?
Mainly gym, yeah. So we spend a lot of time in the gym over the winter, a lot of time on the track. You know, the team pursuit nowadays is more of a sprint event, to be honest, rather than, you know, kind of like an in-between. And yeah, so the change is now trying to just kind of shed that weight gradually. I'm kind of back down to like 73, so almost 5 kilos lighter than I was in Rio, but I think I've still got a fair way to go already. But kind of, unfortunately, it's my first year, so it's kind of learning, you know, not to try and push it too far. You know, I think you can get carried away with weight loss, especially, you know, if you do it too quick. It kind of has adverse effects rather than beneficial effects. So yeah, it's kind of just learning about myself, my body over the next kind of year or so.
Okay. I've just had a phone call from someone from Science and Sport asking me to ask you about nutrition.
Yeah.
So I know they're a sponsor, but can you talk to me about how you manage to shed that weight? Are we talking long miles, or just being careful, or monitoring it, or?
I think, fortunately, I've been working with Science and Sport this year, and then obviously last year as well, with Team Wiggins. We're very fortunate to have them, and a lot of the kind of the weight gain for Rio was just through kind of muscle mass and protein.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing how quick you lose muscle if you don't try and maintain it, you know, through gym work or stuff like that. So a lot comes off really quickly, but then it's just about trimming the fat. And yeah, it's kind of a mixture of, you know, low carb rides, long rides, kind of more protein based rides, and just kind of general volume on the bike. I think, you know, day in, day out, kind of just doing 25-hour weeks. I think it just naturally comes off, and being pretty switched on. You know, I think there's times when, you know, for me, I'm trying to make the classic squad with Sky this year, so weight isn't the most important thing. You know, if anything, you're better off being a bit bigger, a bit more resilient, you know, for the weather, for the conditions, and maybe for the second half of the year try and trim down them for kind of some of the hillier stuff and the hotter stuff. So it kind of seemed like a logical starting point to kind of try and focus on the classics this year. You know, obviously it's going to be a big step up from amateur to world tour, so I don't really know where my strengths lie, but kind of going off what I was good as an under-23 is kind of those type of races, those one-day races. So yeah, that's kind of the focus for the first half of the year.
Okay, we've seen an interesting sort of progression for the classics in recent years from Team Sky. We see Stannard, for example, doing really well consistently, amazingly. Geraint coming back for Tour of Flanders, his love of it. Bradley having his crack at Roubaix and things like this. But I guess last year Luke Rowe was a standout. Are you the next step in that sort of feeder chain?
I'd hope so. I think it's quite early to say at the minute. Yeah, like Rowe, for example, someone I kind of look up to massively. I think if you look over his progression over the last kind of 4 or 5 years of the team, it's been pretty special actually. Kind of making the Tour de France team consistently, being up there in the classics. Last year he was 5th at Flanders. I think the year before he was 7th at Roubaix. So I think he's knocking on the door, and really fortunate that obviously I know him quite well. Being from Wales as well, he's a bit older than me, but kind of being able to learn a lot from him, just being around him in training and how he operates and stuff. And that's kind of one of the things I'm looking forward to most about the classics, is kind of being part of that group and kind of doing what I can for those guys, but also learning. And then, hopefully 3-4 years down the line, I'll kind of be in a similar situation.
Okay. Coming for your debut season with Sky, I mean, Sky's been through an interesting off-season to say the very least. So, are you feeling the weight of expectation, or are they sort of just sort of drip feeding the idea of pressure into you, or how does that transition work for you?
Yeah, there's not been much massive pressure or anything like that. I think at the end of the day, when you sign for the biggest team in cycling, there's always going to be that pressure anyway, whether that, even regardless if that comes from the staff or anything like that. You kind of it's not the best cycling team in the world for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's been pretty relaxed so far. Nice. I think as the races get more important, as we get closer to kind of those monuments and stuff like that, it kind of ramp up a bit. But yeah, for me so far it's been pretty good. I think no complaints.
Well, let's talk about that race. I wonder if we could, because times will suggest it was the best pursuit in history, and certainly it was very exciting to watch. I think he got the lead in the last 200 metres.
Yeah.
Do you have a recall of that 3 minutes 51?
No, I do remember. I think it's an odd one, because I think, although we broke world record 350.2, I think the track wasn't actually that quick. I think the times we were posting a couple of weeks earlier in our holding cup in Newport, we were going quicker than that anyway, like one team on the track. So I think if it's almost a pity the track wasn't quite up to scratch. Well, the track was good. It was more the conditions. It wasn't actually that warm, high pressure. So I think if it had been more optimal, it would be nice to be able to go under that 350 barrier. I think, because that's the next evolution really of team pursuing. But I remember a lot of it. From us, it wasn't probably our worst ride of the actual whole race, to be honest.
What position are you?
3.
Okay. So who did you come off?
So it's Ed, Berkey, me, and then Brad behind me. Okay. So in terms of technically, it wasn't our best ride. I think the Aussies went out pretty hard and put us under the cosh quite early on, and it kind of just, you can kind of you picture your perfect race beforehand. Everyone knows exactly what turns they want to do, but because we'd both gone out on unrealistic paces, it was going to come to a head, and it was kind of who's going to blow the worst. To be honest, unfortunately, it was them. But I think if we'd ridden our own race and maybe composed ourselves a bit more and just kind of stepped back, I think it would have been, we probably could have gone quicker. But looking back now, it doesn't really make much difference, to be honest. I think, like a lot of people said, it was kind of dubbed as one of the best team pursuit finals ever, and it was nice to be part of.
Does Bradley have any special requests when he's working with you? Does he ask for you to be consistent, or
no? I think
are there demands coming from behind during the race? Do you hear anything?
No. So Brad's pretty good. I think we've ridden as a team, kind of our Olympic team for probably the 16-18 months beforehand, and where always the positions which would be Brad was always be on my wheel. Mm-hmm. So I think he got quite comfortable behind me, and I remember him saying, like, in the holding camp, that's one of the things he likes, is just the fact that he knows exactly what I'm going to do, exactly where I'm going to go. He can tell what turn I'm going to give him just by how I'm pedaling, and it means he can just switch off completely into autopilot, and he doesn't say a word in the team suit. Some guys, might just need a little bit of like a nudge, just if they're backing off a bit, and it's not physical, it's just more like the feel of it. But yeah, as a whole, the team's pretty dialed. I think when we come back off a big roadblock and we're dropping back in for the first couple of track sessions, it's a bit different. The feel's not quite there, but by the time we got to the games, we've been on the track for 3-4 weeks, kind of just as the four of us. Every single effort we do is always in that formation. Every single effort we do on the road is always in that formation.
Okay.
So it's, if we're doing a team time trial effort on the road, Brad will always be sat behind me. I'll always be sat behind Berkey. And you just get comfortable on those wheels.
Australia had a long dalliance with Heiko Salzwedel as coach back in the 90s. We understand that he's got that ability to turn teams around. Can you just talk a little bit about Heiko as a coach and how he differs and what he brought to the table when he came on board with British Cycling?
Yeah, he's really good. I think Heiko came on board after we had a pretty bad World Champs in Colombia. We came 8th. It was like the worst result for GB since like 1999. So stuff kind of needed a change, needed a shake-up, and they brought Heiko in, and he kind of brought a lot of new things in, new ideas. We did a lot more altitude, a lot more gym work, and it was kind of a bit of a breath of fresh air as well. I think, Heiko, he's very uncompromising. If he wants something, he'll get it done. I think that was one of the kind of key factors. I think one of the bigger factors was Brad coming back, to be honest. Not just from what he brought physically to the team, but when you've got someone of Brad's calibre dropping in, everyone steps the game up. Mechanics, carers, coaches, everyone wants to be involved, and I think that just raises the whole level, not just for our TP squad, but kind of across the board for all the other squads as well. So I think, physically, obviously him coming back as a rider was big, but I think as a person and his personality was even bigger.
When you've gone through that, let's say, a curious microcosm of support network that you have at British Cycling and you're going to have again with Team Sky, do you sort of step back a little bit in the off-season and look at all of the detail that gets considered and think, it's just bloody bike racing?
I'm a big fan of that kind of marginal gains philosophy. I think I've been within the kind of British cycling system since I was 16 now, so it's kind of, I've grown up with it. I've grown up with going to Junior World Championships with video analysis, filming everything, delivery splits, and I think for road it's a bit different. I think it's not as measurable, but for the team pursuit it's kind of vital. If you know exactly to break the world record, you know exactly what power you need to produce on the front in the wheels off the start. You can train all those different levels, and you can think, oh, okay, well, my threshold power-wise, I'm there. I'm in the ballpark. I need to work on my start. My top end's there. I think that's what I like about the track is, I think if we went to Rio and didn't win, it would have been a waste of time for us as a group. And the fact that it's measurable. You kind of it's like an investment. You can, if you do everything right, you can almost see your returns. So I think, for me, that kind of philosophy is something I buy into pretty heavily.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a step up. Like I said, it's kind of biggest cycling team in the world, so it's going to be hard. The demands are quite high. Obviously Sky are kind of known for kind of taking on racing. They don't shy away from it, and it's nice because every race, even the couple of races I did as a stagiaire at the end of the year with Abu Dhabi and Paris Tours, every single day there's a goal, and every single day you've got a job to do. There's no days where you're just kind of getting through the stage, just trying to finish. I think, and I like that mentality of it. So for me, it's kind of the first goal is kind of make the classic squad, is to be in the team for that kind of big week in April with Roubaix and Flanders, and then after that it's kind of just have a good, solid, consistent year. I'd like to try and win something, to be honest. Whether that's a stage like Tour Britain, Nationals, just get a win under the belt in your first year would be quite special.
do you negotiate that? You know, when you're talking about your program, do you just put your hand up and say, "Oh, Sir Dave, is it okay to have a shot at?"
Yeah, I've already kind of flagged it up. You know, you had to write your kind of year plan, or your kind of and what you want to achieve out the year, and your 5-year plan and stuff like that when I joined. And that's one of the things I said for my year. I'd like to try and win something. And obviously, you know, with such a stacked team, those opportunities won't come as you know, it's not like every day I'm going to have a shot. And that's why I think I want to be consistent throughout the year, so that when, you know, that day comes where they say, okay, today will work for you, Owain, you're ready for it, you take it with both hands and see what comes of it.